Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and this is how to make an RPG in Unity 5. Welcome to episode 8. So we're going to carry on exactly where we left off last time, and if you remember, we had the point where we had to look at our notice board and had a look at the quest, and we had that notice cam appear and look at the specific quest itself. So this episode, we're going to look at more UI, so we're going to look at buttons, we're going to do some more scripting, and we're going to start looking at some animation with some UI elements rather than game object elements out here. Same sort of thing, but it's just fun to play with. And we'll also start looking at our quest itself. So first things first, what we'll do is we'll go to our canvas, double click so we can see the whole thing, and let's bring it into perspective, i.e. around this way. So if we open up here, so drop it down, and if we click on here, to activate our actual quest UI and press play, what I intend to do is down the bottom I want to have like a box that says this is your reward, do you accept, do you decline the quest. So let's get to that. So we're going to have this active so we can see what we're doing. So game object, UI, and let's go to, what should we have? Let's have a panel. So let's place the panel alongside the quest UI. So drag and drop into there, and then change to center. Set the anchor point to center. I think that's probably going to be best. Let's select this tool here with the blue corners, and let's bring it into position. And let's have it, I think it needs to be a bit smaller. So let's have it at the side here. Increase it a little, and I think I'm going to change the background color of that panel. So I'm going to click over here, and let's have it a similar color to what we have here. So let's click the little pipette tool, and let's click one of these colors here. Okay, we'll have that. Let's increase the alpha a little so it's not quite as see-through. I don't want it to be solid, but I don't want it to be see-through. So let's have it about there, and let's have a look and see how it looks. Yeah, okay, I think that looks fine. Obviously, you can take your time and tweak things as you need to. I'm going to right-click and rename this and just have it called Reward Panel. And inside this panel, we're going to have some text boxes. So right-click, UI, text, and let's have that text anchored to the top of this panel, and then let's move it into position about there. And let's have it say rewards. Let's have it as white text. I'm just doing this real quick so as you can see the basics of what we're aiming for here. You obviously take as much time as you need to. So the rewards, what can we have as a reward? So generally in an RPG you would get things like experience, you would get money, you would get even weapons and things like that. So let's do the simple things to start off with. So I'm going to hold Control and press D to duplicate that reward box and bring it down to about there. And let's put 100 experience. And let's duplicate again, bring it down, and let's have 100 gold. I'm going to decrease the size a little, so let's have it as 20. Let's have it as 26 and not bold, so normal. So normal again, 26. And now here's where we get to start playing around a little bit more with UI that we haven't dealt with yet. So let's do some buttons, shall we? So game object, UI, and let's choose button right there. So let's drag and drop this button onto the quest 0. In fact, let's do it on the reward panel, I should say. I think it'd be better on there. So let's have this button here, and let's have it named accept. So click the little arrow next to the button, and on the text, let's have accept. Let's play around with the color a little. So you could theoretically change how the image looks if you wanted to. Over here by source image, you could select it and perhaps select a couple of different things. You can see that it changes the shape of the button itself. I generally like to keep them as they are, like this. But there's a lot further you can go into, and you can get different sprites for buttons if you have a quick Google or anything. Color. You can obviously change color. Let's have this as a green, maybe. Yeah, we'll have it as a green. But while we're at it, I think I'll change the text on the button itself to white. There we go. And let's also, let's have it bold as well. So before we go any further, I'm a bit bored of looking at the same font. So let's bring in a font, shall we? So right click on your assets, create folder, and let's have a folder for fonts, because I'm sure we'll be using quite a few fonts as we go through this series. And I'm going to bring in this font here. I'm not going to put this on the website because you can search for it on Google. This is a commercially free font which I have obtained via searching through Google, but feel free to do a search for it and you'll be able to find it no problem. So the way fonts work is they don't necessarily have to be installed on your machine for it to work. As long as they are in your assets folder, the font will work here. And to do that, all you would need to do is just drag and drop this font over here. So you can see it changes there. So let's increase the size here. Let's have, in fact, we'll increase the size of the button as well, I think. So button, there we go. Accept. I might unbold it, just have it as normal. And let's do the same with these rewards here. Let's drag and drop the font again, and drag and drop. So as I say, this is just a quick, simple font that I've managed to track down, commercially free, just to give this a bit more snazz rather than the plain boring old font that we'll always use. Okay, so we have the accept button there. You can change highlighted color. Let's have the highlighted color as black, maybe, and see how that looks. And then obviously you got your press color and disable color. So if we press play now, and we should be able to see, there we are. So if we hover over accept, it turns it black. So obviously we've got an accept button. So right click, rename, accept button. So let's hold control, press D to duplicate. And obviously with an accept button, you would also have a decline button. So let's have that in there as well. So let's rename this to decline button. And let's change the text to decline. And let's change it to a red color rather than a green color, because obviously you would decline the quest. So let's press play again, and we should be able to see we have accept decline. So we have this quest here. We want to accept it. So let's build that up, shall we? It's real simple to do and play with, but what we're going to do first is a quick little script that we're going to set now for future development. It's always good to try and future-proof your own work. So in this case, we're going to have a quest script, which is going to be a quest manager. So right click, create C# script, and let's call it quest manager. Now, the way this script is going to work, it's going to be fairly small to begin with, but it's going to grow over time as we do more and more tutorials. And this is going to maintain what quest we are currently have active, what we've got, what we can do, and all different things. But we'll get to that as we go further into the series. So we have this. Let's get rid of everything in the public class because we'll start from scratch. Let's have public static int, and this is going to be the quest number. So I'd like to assign every quest in the game with a specific number, i.e. let's say there's 200 quests. It's quest number 1 to 200. So let's call it active quest number, semicolon. Next is going to be public int and just internal quest number. So at the moment, all we'll have in the void update is making the internal quest number the same as active quest number. Internal quest number equals active quest number. So that's all there is to this script at the moment. It's just a way of maintaining what number quest we're actually doing. So next thing is we need to trying to think what's the best way to do this. Let's actually have our quest name as some UI. So I'm going to save that script, and before we actually create the script for buttons, let's kind of again with this word future-proof this tutorial at least, because we'll be having some displaying objects on our game scene which will say what the quest is. I'm going to leave these on for now. I mean, eventually we will turn this off, as you can see, but for now I am leaving it on so as we can see visually what our screen is going to look like. So game object, UI, and text. It's up to you whether you want to use another font here. It really is up to you. I'm just going to use the simple plain font that I've been using most of the time. And I'm going to have this, for now, simply say quest name. I'm going to right click and rename, and I think we'll just call it the same thing really. Let's have it as active quest label. I think that's probably a better name. And let's get it into position. So let's have it anchored top left, but we want it to appear about there. Let's expand it outwards, and we want this to be kind of prominent because this is going to be the quest name that appears on our screen. So let's have bold. Let's have what color font should we have? What's it look like in the game at the moment with a dark gray? Okay, so I'm going to put it as a white font for now so we can see it a bit better. And I'm going to increase the size double. Okay, so as you would expect, what we're going to do is a bit of animation on this because I want this to kind of fade in. So let's go to our animations folder and then go to village. In fact, we'll go to animations and we'll create a new folder and we'll have this as quest anims. And in here, we're going to animate this UI label. So it works the same way as we've done before. If we go to animation, create, and let's have active quest label anim. And as I say, it's pretty much the same as what we've done before. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this to fade in over 1 second. It'll display for 5 seconds and then fade out over the course of 2 seconds. So we'll set our very first frame 0 as where it is now. So what we'll do, set the alpha to 0 and then to 255. In fact, no, keep it as 0. I think we're better off with 0, aren't we? Because we want it to fade in, like I say. So over the course of a second, which is 60 frames, so we'll go to the 60th frame and we'll set the alpha as 255, which makes it full so we can completely see it. And then we say we want to display it for 5 more seconds. So we'll go to frame 360. Oops, I've done samples there. So we want 360 and we'll change the alpha color to 254. Just so as we kind of make a prominent point of saying this is what it is at this point. So then, after another 2 seconds, we want it to fade out to nothing. So we want it to be completely empty. So we add 120 frames onto this, which makes it 480. So at frame 480, we would expect this to be 0 alpha, so we can't see it at all. And then press the record button again to stop. So let's have a look at this specific animation that we have here. So I think best way for us to do this is if we untick loop time, because we only want this animation to play once. So if we press play now, we should see quest name fade in, wait for 5 seconds, and then it should hopefully fade out. Okay, so that is how our quest name and quest objectives are going to appear on our screen. So we have to do same thing again for the quest objectives, and I think At this point, you need to work out how many quest objectives you want displaying on the screen at once. I think 3 is a somewhat decent amount to have. So we have our quest name, then we have objective 1, objective 2, objective 3. Then obviously if you have more objectives, you move them upwards. So I'm going to hold Control, press D to duplicate this one. I'm going to bring it down and bring it across to about there. Right click, rename. I'm going to call this active quest obj01. That's just short for objective. So this is our objective 1. I'm going to debold it and decrease the font size to about what should we decrease it to? About 22. Let's see how that looks. Let's press play. Okay, that's fine. That is pretty much how I expected it to be. So although they appear at the same time, we're going to work around that with a script anyway. So I'm going to hold Control, press D to duplicate that again and bring it down. And once again, down to about there. Quickly rename things. So we have 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to bother changing the text because this text is just a default kind of placeholder for now. We'll change it during the script anyway. So now we have things ready for these buttons. Let's get these buttons working, shall we? Let's head to our script folder and into the quests. And what was this one for? Okay, so this particular script was so it just got us to display this. So let's create another script. Right click, create, C#. Let's have quest 001 and then buttons. And let's open that up in MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. So this script is going to be not huge, but if you do have any problems at any point with this script, head over to the website. You'll be able to download the script on there for free. First things first, what we need to do is here we need to say using Unity engine.ui semicolon, because we'll be using some UI components. I'm going to get rid of everything there and start the public class fresh. So a couple of things we need to deal with. We need to have public game object, and the first thing is going to be the player, semicolon. And then next is going to be the notice cam, the one that is actually on at the moment. So public game object notice cam, semicolon. Next is going to be the UI quest. So this whole thing here. So public UI quest, game object UI quest, semicolon. Next is going to be the active quest box, which was the first quest we created. And then obviously after that, we're going to have 3 variables for each of these. So public game object, and let's call it active quest box, semicolon. Public game object, and it's going to be objective 01, semicolon. That's objective, there we go. And I'm just going to quickly copy that one and then change them to 2 and 3. So there we have 7 variables. So we're going to do 2 things in this. We're going to have the buttons that are going to be our main things here. So we can call these buttons anything we want. So we'll call the first one accept quest. So to use a script in a button, you would have to have the word public void rather than just void. Accept quest, open close bracket, open curly bracket. Obviously you can call that whatever you want, but this is going to be for the accept button, so it's probably wise to call it accept quest. So once we accept the quest, we want a couple of things to happen. We want the player to resume playing, we want the notice camera to disappear, we want the quest UI to disappear, and we want our quest status to update on screen. So the player.setActive is going to be true. Next, notice cam.setActive is going to be false because we want to turn it off, obviously. Next, we want the UI to disappear. So UI quest.setActive false. And then finally, we need to actually start a separate, or rather start a coroutine here, because we're going to use a couple of lines of code, specifically the wait for seconds, in something that we can't use in a void. It needs to be something called an IEnumerator. So let's put start coroutine, and in brackets, we're going to call it, let's call it set quest UI. Set quest UI, open close bracket, semicolon, and then close curly bracket. So at this point, it should actually be red here because we've not defined our IEnumerator set quest UI yet. So we'll do that now. IEnumerator, and then set quest UI, open close bracket, open curly bracket. So all we've done basically is say in this accept quest button is say, right, we've done this, now we want to call a different coroutine. And this is it here. So everything we do here will be called when we press the accept button as well. So the first thing we're going to want to do is set our actual names of our quest and what we want to do in the quest, which is our objectives. So active quest box dot get component, open spiky bracket, text, close spiky bracket, open close bracket, dot text. So what we're basically doing here is referencing a component within a component. So for example, these text buttons have a component called text and a subcomponent also called text. The only difference is this subcomponent called text has a lowercase t. So we're setting what this text is going to say. So equals, and in quotes, let's have the quest called my first weapon, because we're going to deal with weapons soon anyway. So once we've got that done, let's set the objective texts. So objective 01 dot get component, open spiky bracket, text. Remember, coding in general is case sensitive, so it's always important to get your capitalization correct. So the first objective, let's have it as reach the clearing in the wood. And semicolon. Next, we need to set the second objective. So I'm just going to copy that line, change it to objective 2, and let's have our second objective as, let's have a chest, shall we? So we want to open a chest. So open the chest. And then finally, let's set the third objective. So change it to 3. And what can the third objective be? Let's just have it as retrieve the weapon. So there are 3 objectives. Now all we need to do is change our quest number in the quest manager script to 1, because this will be our first quest. So quest manager dot active quest number equals 1. Next, what we'll do is once we've accepted, we'll wait for just maybe half a second, and then we'll display the quest name. So to do that, we do yield return new, wait for seconds, and in brackets, let's wait for half a second, so 0.5, and then F because we're using a float. So decimal, always put the F after the number. Close bracket, semicolon. Next thing we need to do is active quest box dot set active true. Now, because the animation will always play, what's going on there? Why is that turned red? That's a bit strange. Let's try that again. So active quest box autofill. Silly autofill. Set active true. Okay, so yes, as we're saying, because the animation will only play once, it doesn't matter how long our actual UI stays active for, because we can always turn it off at a later date. So after half a second, our quest name starts appearing. So let's wait another second. So let's copy our yield return new wait for seconds, and let's change it to 1 second. So a second after that started appearing, let's have objective 1 appear. So objective 01 dot set active true. And because the animation will automatically play, we don't need to worry about getting the animation component and playing it. So after first objective has appeared, let's wait another half second, and then let's get the second objective to appear. So objective 2 dot set active is true, and then let's wait another half second, and then let's display objective number 3. There we go. So that's set as true. So we've got a total of half a second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. So here, our entire run of this particular IEnumerator section is running for 2.5 seconds. And each of our animations lasts 8 seconds. And there is a split between them of 2 seconds because we have 1, 2, and 2. So the entire thing should run in 10 seconds actually. So because we've got 2 seconds already, let's yield wait for seconds an extra 9 seconds. Now this isn't going to make too much of a difference on any script because this will kind of run in the background. It's not going to prevent us from using our player. So after all these have ran, all we need to do is set everything as inactive. So we can take that, the active quest box.set active, and change the true to false. So we turn them off again. And the same applies with our objectives. So that'll be objective 1, and we'll change that to 2, and this one to 3. And you're probably ahead of me now, guys. Put them all as false. Okay, so final thing to do is close curly bracket to end that. And hopefully when you put that last curly bracket, the set quest UI and the start coroutine should turn black. Now, let's save that script. Let's head back to Unity. And hopefully we don't get any errors. So let's check our console and clear. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a game object and create empty. Right click, rename, and let's just have this as quest button manager. So whenever we have buttons for quests, this one is always going to contain them. So in the case of the quest button we've just written, let's drag and drop it onto there. Next thing, we need to actually set the variables for that, which is real simple. You guys should be able to recall doing this previously. So we set the player, we set the notice cam, UI quest is this here, active quest box is the quest label there, and then the 3 objectives. Just got to quickly rename that one, that's named the same. Okay, so we have them all in there. So let's turn off our quest 01 UI, so untick, and let's turn off our active quest labels and our quest objectives so they don't appear. And now let's press play. Oops, one thing I just realized. Yep, so everything's disappeared, all the UI has gone. So it's as you would expect. And the button isn't going to work just yet, but if we go over here, we can see that our updated UI is working. So we have the opportunity to accept or decline. Next thing, we need to actually set the button working. And we can do that real simple. If we go onto the accept button, down here you'll see on click list is empty. We just need to press the plus button and then drag and drop this quest button manager onto that object, and you'll see it says no function has lit up. Click on there and go to quest 001 buttons, and then out of there all we need to do is click on accept quest. So now when we press accept button, it will run the script we've just written. So let's press play and have a go. And let's accept. So there we go, we can see that's what we're doing. So you guys can take as much time as that as you need to, but there's one final thing we need to do. We need to sort out that decline button. So to do that, we need to go into our script again. And down here, we need to create another public void. So public void, and let's call it decline quest. Open close bracket, open curly bracket. And all this is going to be these 3 lines of code that we put in accept quest. So it's basically accept quest, but without that start coroutine. Close curly bracket and save. And if we go to our decline button, we just need to do what we did before. Click plus, drag across our object, select no function, go to quest 01 buttons, and then go to decline quest. So now when we press play, we should be able to go to our quest board, check it out, and decline. And we're back to where we were. So we've not undertaken that quest. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. This is really starting to turn into an RPG. So next episode, we're going to kind of clean up a little bit with this quest and make things a little bit more uniform, get things to appear correctly and disappear as and when we need to. We're going to add a quest marker. We'll start looking at weapons. We'll add more to this quest, and I think we're going to start looking at XP earning as well, so a bit of experience. So it's going to be a lot of numerical work from here on in because there's a lot to do. So guys, until that episode, you build up your world, you build your script as you need to, invent your own quests, think up things, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.